Guys, obviously, we want to do a quick welcome introduction here to Jeff. He is an expert when it comes to sales, closing deals, building value, building a strong client base and retention within a client, a book of business. Jeff's sold millions of dollars of insurance premium over the years. So, guys, what he says, he knows what he's talking about. Really, this is a great opportunity to also ask Jeff any questions and really kind of get knowledge out from him. So, Jeff, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you guys for having me.
So we'll go, a couple quick questions and then we'll open it up, and real life scenarios, like real customers you're working with, and Jeff can probably do those off the cuff for sure. So Jeff, if you could just kind of break down a little bit about what does an effective follow-up look like for actually closing a deal? And, how is this different than just like a regular follow-up that you would do just to kind of check in with a customer? And if you have any like specific actions that you take.
I think it goes down to two pieces, right? Like, and let's focus, I know you guys have a heavy focus on like commercial, right? So in commercial, you're focusing on the GL, you're focusing on the work comp, you're focusing on the commercial auto. You need to be trial closing everyone. What a trial close is, right, obviously they're shopping, guys, because they have a problem. Your job is to find the problem. You find the problem from asking questions. You don't find the problem by telling them how good Adelphi is, right? Talk to me about your current situation. What has you shopping? I'm trying to save money. I understand. Why are you trying to save money? What's wrong in your business that has forced you to save money and cut costs? Identify the true problem before you even get to the quoting process, right? What would your ideal general liability plan look like? What keeps you up at night if something were to happen? What do you need to make sure is covered? If something catastrophic happened in your business, what could shut you down? How can I make sure that if anything happens that none of this ever bothers you, right? Because my job, right, as an insurance broker is to make sure that if anything happens, you and your wife sleep good at night because you've had this business for 10 years. Right? We want to cover these situations, right? So we do things a little bit different. I'm going to ask you some quality questions to identify the needs that you need, provide a quality product. And by the way, we're the only company basically in California right now that can do your GL, work comp, and commercial auto. Now, before we get started, do you have any questions for me? Right? You need to build that value from your initial statement. So there's two pieces here. After you build that value, your trial close is this. Now, I'm going to work really hard to earn your business, okay? But I do need a soft commitment, or at least to understand where you're at in the marketplace. If I can get you GL, commercial auto, work comp, save your business money, make sure you get exactly what you need from a quality company, can I get a verbal that you would make the switch? Right, that's before you even send the quote.
Is there a different way of saying that, or was that the only way you would say it?
I mean,
you probably have variations of this.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, in personal lines, because that's what we are selling right now, before we get the auto quote going and we have the opening, the building value, the price presentation, and the closing. That's how we sell auto. It's a 4-step conversation. For commercial, I really think of it as like the opening, price presentation, and then follow up to close. Right, most commercial deals, when they're over $5,000, you're not going to get a credit card on the phone, right? You're going to do the quotes and then you're going to follow up, and then it's the follow-up game, right? How many contacts need, what's the language you need to use. But in the sense of your specific question,
can I get a verbal? Can I get a like?
I mean, basically we say if we can get you everything that you need that you're looking in the marketplace and save you money, that's basically kind of any variation you want to say from that. Like, hey, sir, if we can get you exactly what you need and do the GL, work comp, commercial auto, save your business money, get you a quality company, would you make the switch to Adelphia? Right? When you say yes, you're working with somebody who's truly a good prospect. I tell my team, I got this from a book I shared with Chris recently, and it says to be a good salesperson, you need to spend more time with better prospects. Right? Spend more time with better prospects. Those being the people that are actually going to hear you out versus the one that are like, I don't know, my insurance broker is actually my brother. Okay? Okay, how close are you? No, I'm joking, right? Most of those people aren't going to really make the switch, right? But you can't identify that unless you ask a direct trial close question. Who am I working with? Let me put this guy on the spot for just a quick sec and see how he responds. If I save you money, get you what you need, would you switch to Adelphia? Yes or no? Probably not. Hey, no problem. Thank you so much for your time. In the future, reach out to us if you need help. You're looking for people that says, yes, no, absolutely. I'm pissed. I'm frustrated. Give me what I'll need, I'll switch. That's step one. Step two is following up, which is Chris's direct question, right? So it's all about the language that you use. Do you guys text?
We text a lot.
Okay, so we have a text platform. A lot of our closes, guys, somewhat come from text messages. So what you need to do as well, you need to do every logical possible thing to get them to pick up the phone to go over the quote with you, right? Hey, let me make sure I get all the information for the GL and the auto. Okay, boom, 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 I got it all. Now, hey, John, I want to make sure we can go through this in detail. So I'm super busy helping people just like you save a lot of money. So I'll put a 15-minute block. Do you have tomorrow at 12:30 available? We can go through everything. Right? Send a reminder text in the morning. Hey, John, friendly reminder, talking at 12:30. You're trying to do everything you possibly can to get this guy not to ghost you. Okay? Now, when you get him to answer the phone, you assume that because he picked up, you're proceeding. Right? And this is if you've gotten him the price, maybe you've answered a couple questions on the phone. When you follow up, now you're following up to close. Right? And the language you use is very specific. You try not to get people, like for example, if you can't close it on the phone the first time and they're like, hey, I got to talk to my wife. You don't follow up and say, hey, John, did you talk to your wife? Right? The reason, if he picks up his phone the second time, you're assuming he's picking up because he's going to proceed. Right? Hey, John, calling you for our 12:30 appointment. Hey, did you have any final questions before we proceed? Right? Or, hey, John, thank you so much for taking my call. Now, I'm guessing the name of your new insurance policy is going to be under the incorporated name, correct? Right? Like I'm assuming I'm going to proceed the deal forward. I'm not going to open up and say, "Hey, did you think about it? Hey, did you talk to your wife? Hey, did you shop it out?" I'm not opening with I'm not opening with the last objection I finished on. I'm opening with the assumption that, hey, I'm calling you to get your new GL policy started with Adelphia. Now, did you want to pay monthly or you want to pay up front for the year? That's a really good close, guys. Do you want to pay monthly or do you want to pay up front for the year? Which one works better for you? We have customizable options to get started, right? So that's kind of the language you need to use. Now, over text message, if the guy doesn't answer the phone, at 12:30 you had a scheduled call, he doesn't pick up, text him and say, hey, John, this is Chris. When can we get your new general liability started? I'm not giving him any option whether to say yes or no, because what I'm looking for is, hey, thanks so much for staying with the Hartford. That's what you want. You need to seek the no. You do not seek another objection and then play the cat and mouse game, which we're going to get into next. You need to use very strong language. Very weak language is, hey, John, this is Chris. I'm just following up on the quote. Did you see it? I've opened up the door for every possible objection that this guy could throw at me. Versus the latter, hey, John, the reason for the call, let's get your new general liability insurance started. The price is only blop. Now, did you want to pay monthly or upfront for the year, sir? What's better for your business? Right? So that language also lifts your level of credibility as an advisor and shows that like, oh, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. Right? He's so confident in what he's offering. Why would I not switch? Right? They start rethinking a lot, right? So it's all about the language and your tonality that you use within that follow-up. And I'm always positive. And when you ask for the deal, make sure you do it with a smile, right? Hey, did you want to pay monthly or did you want to pay up front for the year? What works better for you, right? It's a lot different than, hey, John, reason for the call, blah, blah. You want to pay monthly or you want to pay up front for the year? It's like, whoa, 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 right? I will only pressure someone if I feel that pressure is necessary to close, but a lot of the times it's not necessary.
For the next question I was going to ask is, how do you avoid that cat and mouse kind of game that they play with you in the first place? And, where can you, get clients to actually make decisions instead of delaying decisions? And yeah, I think you mentioned it a little bit with, the trial closing. But if there's any other strategies you can use to create urgency and to really build the value, without the pushiness, without like that, that's one thing I think we all want to stay away from. It's like a sleazy kind of pushy vibe.
For sure.
So how do you keep it professional, create the urgency, build the value, and meanwhile avoid this cat and mouse game where they just disappear, ghost you, and play all these games?
I think it starts with the way that you open up the quote, right? The questions that you ask. For example, if I say 1, 2, 3, too many salespeople say 4, 5, 6. Right? Like that's called passive listening, right? Where you're listening with the intent to speak. You need to listen with the intent to clarify. So if I say 1, 2, 3, and I'm the advisor, I'm going to say, just to clarify, John, you said 1 is important, 2 is important, and 3 is important. Did I miss anything? the prospect automatically says, wow, this guy's a great listener, right? People will tell you what they want. You need to listen, right? So that's a huge piece on building that credibility and the trust is when they say 1, 2, 3, don't say 4, 5, 6. Say, did I miss it? I got 1, I got 2, I got 3. Is there anything else that's super important to you, right? Sets the tone for the level of credibility and also builds urgency in the sense that you're going to do a better job than their current carrier. The next thing is the follow-up, right? Not to play this cat and mouse game. Now, do realize your follow-up. I remember another agent when I first started targeting commercial like 6 years ago. He's like, are you ready to become a professional harasser? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, the amount of follow-up that you're going to have to do, most people get uncomfortable with that because it's so, because the business owner is busy, right? Like Chris and I, we're dealing with constant problems, okay? Every day there's a new problem, right? And then some days there's like 25 problems and it's like, okay, how do I do this? And if some guy calls me trying to sell something, I may yell at him today, right? So you guys are on the other side of that where when you're soliciting the business owner, you're dealing with someone he's already too busy, he's already got enough problems, and you just have to realize that you can't take it personal when you call this guy for the last 2 weeks every other day and he doesn't get back to you. It's part of the game. So you just have to basically 10x your contacts made in commercial. That's the first thing. If you're following up one time, guys, it's just completely unacceptable. I would say minimum 10. 10 follow-ups. And a follow-up is a text, a follow-up's an email, a follow-up's a call. So if I bang out 3 of those a day for 3 days in a row, that's 9 contacts made that I've got out to him when he has my quote, and I'm confident that he's going to proceed. The way that you stop this cat and mouse game is by the language that you use. Hey, John, just following up. Did you look at my quote? You're just furthering another 3 weeks on this thing. No, sorry, been busy, had to run payroll. Sorry, right? No, hey, we got a huge project. Sorry. Hey, no, I've been in the field the last 2 days. I can't talk, right? The follow-up needs to be, hey, John, when can we get your new general liability insurance started with Adelphia? That's a direct yes or no. I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm looking for a decision, right? And that's just kind of like using stronger language. So we have 1 text message. We have 3 text messages that we use when they have the quote. And the reason why they have the quote is because we couldn't close them on the first call. The first text is, hey, John, this is Chris. When can we get your new insurance? Yeah.
This is when they have the quote?
This is when they have the quote. They're
Okay.
sitting with the quote. You've emailed it to them. Now you're following up to close.
Got
So
it.
part 2 of the conversation.
Got it.
First text, when can we get your new? Put in parentheses, your new, right? Always give the consumer the product before they have it, right? So when can we start your new homeowners? When can we start your new workers' comp, right? Very important the way that you position the language, especially in a message, because you need it to be direct and professional. Second text message is, hey, John, reached out a few times, haven't heard back. Where do we go from here? Right, because now it's in his ballpark. Like you're kind of insinuating, like, hey, I'm not going to just call you for the rest of my life. Where do we go from here? What do you recommend we do? Right, because again, the value's there, the cost is there, the company's there. Let's do this, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is, it seems you've given up on proceeding with Adelphia Insurance. I love that text because you will spike a response on that terminology. It's actually from a book, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss. He's like a 40-year hostage FBI negotiator guy, but he talks about how people don't really, in a negotiation situation, when you ask someone, it seems you've given up on the idea, people, oh, well, no, it's, I'm busy, or, so that third text message, that final swing before you close out that opportunity is, it seems you've given up on proceeding with Adelphia. You'll notice if they don't respond to that, guys, just close it out.
We have a very similar text, guys, the abandoned one, but since I haven't heard back from you, I have to assume you're no longer interested.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing.
Yep.
Same exact thing. And it's funny how many times that actually works, because it really does get somebody kind of like, oh, wait, I'm still thinking about it. Give me a minute, give me a couple of days. They might say something like that.
For sure.
You have anything on that?
The way Jeff said it, though.
What?
It was a little added touch to Jeff.
Yeah.
Where it's
So say it one more time, Jeff.
It seems you've given up on proceeding with Adelphia Insurance.
Shorter.
Yeah, it's shorter, it's like more direct, and it's like, wait, no. And I love it where it's life insurance, and it says, hey, John, it seems you've given up on protecting your 2 children with life insurance. Because we say it, right, guys? Because the reason why we say this is because who gets the call when someone passes away and we have a crying spouse on the phone and saying, Jeff, please tell me he took the policy. I remember 6 months ago he mentioned you were trying to get him something. And I say, Sherry, I'm so sorry he didn't pull the trigger. So that's why I'm completely fine with asking those difficult questions, because I've never given a death benefit to a spouse and they thought it was enough, right? So we will push for that product line. You sell life insurance from here. You don't sell life insurance through here. I think PNC is more of a here sale, right? Because it's a commodity, right? Because everybody needs it. It's required, but life insurance is a little bit different of a conversation. But it's all about the language you use, right?
And guys, that it sounds. I know I saw everyone's face when he said that sentence where he was, hey, it sounds like you've given up on protecting your two kids.
Yeah.
And it sounds aggressive. It sounds rough, but it's true. When you see from the other side, when Rebecca's calling and she's calling in for her husband, and he passed away, and you're taking that call, that's where that emotional confidence to say something like that, because you've now been on the other side of it, and that emotional discomfort, you're okay with getting somebody uncomfortable for a minute to make sure that when that phone call happens, you gave your 100%. And it goes same thing with commercial.
For
Same
sure.
thing.
When you say that to the customer and explain the reason why I say this to you, because some people are like, how could you say that, right? The reason why I say that is because of this. And I've never had a customer respond in a foul way when I give them my explanation, right?
Yeah.
That's why I ask you that question. Yeah.
Guys, we want to open up. We want to just be courteous for everyone's time here. So let's and I know Jamel, you have a hard stop, so if you have to take off,
Yeah, I'll
go
manage
ahead
it.
whenever
Thank
you can.
Thank you.
So yeah, guys, real quick Q&A, opening it up. This is for everyone. Any types of scenarios within the agency that you've dealt with difficult situations on the service side, operations. Kelly, go for it. If there's anything that comes up you can think of. And then for the sales guys, like any type of actual deal, like a real life deal, maybe you're working on something right now, how would you close it? That's what I would recommend to ask for Jeff. So go ahead, guys. It's open for Q&A if anyone wants to kick it off.
I know that you just gave us, never split the difference, a great piece of literature to read. I wanted to see if you had any other recommendations on leveling up, my sales game or my closing ability. Currently, Chris, and I have talked about the Closer's Survival Guide.
Great book.
So I am familiar with that, but is there anything else that, you used in your early days that might help give me the edge on another agent?
Yeah. First book that teaches foundations is The Straight Line Selling Method by Jordan Belfort. Mm-hmm. I love that book because it teaches you some really quality questions to open up whether you're selling a pen, a car, or an insurance policy. Right? It's all the same concept, right? And it teaches you, like, when you go to a dealership and you have 3 kids and the main guy, the number one producer goes up to you and he makes a little judgment on you, say, hey man, I got a sports car for you, baby. Let me show you what's the hottest thing on the lot. And then the guy's like, dude, I'm here for a minivan, right? So you got to realize the questions that you ask are vitally important in your sales process. The best salespeople ask the best questions. Right? So that's a great book that'll teach you also like a straight line selling method where it's like the questions, the opening to the close, it's all on one line, right?
So the fastest point from A to Z or whatever, A to B, is a straight line in any type of direction. It's always a straight line is the fastest point from A to B. And that's what Jordan Belfort's essentially saying, is that there is a, people start in a sales process, they start to let people think about it, they're falling off the straight line. So there is a process that he uses psychologically with tone and a lot of different things that keeps people very directly from start of call to a close. And he's basically created a psychology masterclass. That's a great book.
Really good book that teaches foundations. And honestly, one that I wish I put in my training program 7 years ago is The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. I did it by audio. I'm actually on my 4th time listening to it because it's just like, it's unbelievable. That has probably achieved like my top 3 favorite books. Just the first time I listened to it. The guy's, his tonality is a little boring, and that's the only problem. But the actual messages are just straight fire. Like it's unbelievable. So this game, guys, is a self-improvement business, right? If you just show up every day and you just do the same things and you expect different results, that's actually the definition of insanity. Versus what you do outside of work affects you in work, right? You want to sell 50K, you want to sell 100K, you want to be a $100,000 a month producer. Like there are people in this game that do that every single month. And when you talk to them, it's all about self-development, right? Mm-hmm. What am I doing today to get me better for tomorrow, right? And when you take those little things and implement them into your process, right? That's why just self-development's not just reading a book once a year. It's a lifetime habit, right? So, and I'm big in that culture piece in my office. Everybody's reading in our meetings. I'm always like, hey, hey, Bree, share us what you're listening. Like, we got people listening to, Never Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. We had The Likability Factor being read. What else? Oh my gosh, I just gave a new employee the Jordan Belfort book. So there's a ton of other literature, but I would say those two are great foundations. And then the Closer Survival Guide, if you don't do anything else but use those 3 books and weave everything together, you could be excellent.
You said earlier in kind of your closing statement, or I guess your trial close, you said, if we can get you, great rates on, these policies, would you be willing to switch to Adelphia?
Absolutely.
What, in your scenario, like if you were in that scenario, what would you do where your price actually isn't better? How would you overcome that struggle and push past that and still get that deal closed despite that price maybe being higher than what your competition is?
Great question. That's when you need to really identify what's the risk and what's the exposure that they're up against, right? Like for commercial, I like to ask, what are your gross annual receipts, right? Because if I'm quoting a business and their gross receipts are 6 million and they have 1 million on auto, they're significantly underinsured, right? Actually, I had a customer, speaking of stories, right? I had a customer, he's got all these commercial autos and he only has 1 million. I've told this guy for years, I was like, you're making way too much money, man. You need an umbrella policy. He's like, yeah, whatever, right? Okay. When you get into an accident, somebody dies or is hurt, okay, the first thought is, God, I'm so glad I'm saving money. No, it's like, oh my God, what am I covered for, right? So that's where you got to identify what's the risk that I'm going up against? What are those gross annual receipts? What's your annual income? What am I really protecting with these lawsuit liability limits on the commercial or the personal? And that's where you go into the value statement of potentially an umbrella and you move it up a notch, right? Versus just saying, hey, what do you have? Okay, you got $1 million. Okay, we're $1 million. We're $50 more a month. But let me remind you what you're getting here, right? Your leverage is not as strong as when you're giving more coverage still for a quality price, potentially more savings, but maybe just a little bit more. But I get it too. If you're $10,000 more a year, that's a tough sell, right? So that's why you need repetition of quotes. Okay, everybody that you speak to is not going to be a new Adelphia customer, right? In my office, we need to quote 5 people a day. My salespeople need to quote 5 people a day. If they're not doing it, I'm working with them constantly. Where do we get the leads? What are your follow-ups like, right? Where are we going from here, right? How do we get those numbers up? Because again, in this job, going back to the numbers, you need more presentations always. So you're not going to win them all. So in the event that the guy's got an umbrella, you do an umbrella, and then you're shot out of the wind on the value statement, you do your best and try to sell, right? But you're not going to win them all.
But
right?
would you suggest trying to avoid apples to apples?
I would definitely suggest apples to apples. And the question is, why did you select those limits to begin with? Who advised you that those were correct? What are you protecting with those limits? Were you aware that if a major catastrophe happened and God forbid somebody passed away in an auto accident, they could potentially actually go after you personally if you're a sole proprietor, right? There's a lot of different things that you can build value here. Especially, it's not like we're out in Alabama and there's not that many car accidents, okay? We live in the most highest car accident prone state in the country. Something's going to happen to somebody. We want to make sure if it's you can sleep good at night. You kind of follow me on that, right? And I'm always checking in, right? Like that would be my question to the customer, right? You follow me on that, John? Right? Does that kind of make sense to you, sir? Like I'm just building that value where he's like, yeah, no, that does make sense. When you know you're recommending correctly or advising correctly, the word track is this. What do you recommend? Right? Jeff, Devin, what do you suggest? Right? That's where you know, okay, this guy's listening.
Hello, Jeff. I have a question. So I'm working on the biggest deal I've ever done before.
Let's go.
Let's go, Noemi.
Commercial is new to me, and this is just insane. But what's your rebuttal when someone doesn't want to be forthcoming in what their premium amount currently is? I don't know how to get past that. I'm just okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So give me the specific scenario. What are you quoting and what did you ask and then they push back on it?
So I always ask for the declaration pages so I can
Okay.
see what they have.
Of course.
And he sent me the declaration. Oh, but he was like, "Well, what's the point of that? You're gonna be able to see what I'm paying, and you're not gonna be able to give me a fair comparison." And I'm like, "This is not. I can't like just change the numbers. I just put in the limits that you need, and then hope that I'm less than the other carrier. There's no magical wand that I can do to decrease the price except increase the deductible, or but that's
Sure.
really more personal lines. So, but I just once someone doesn't puts like a stop and doesn't want to provide the information, I just kind of just leave it there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just like keep going. So I was just curious, like when someone says that to you, what do you say to them? Just
For
to
sure.
make them be at ease.
When they say, oh, well, why would I send you that, right? Then you can see the numbers. I would say, I wish it was like that, and I wish I had control. But what it will do is I can give you a free second opinion on what you have, and just make sure if there are any gaps in your current plan, we're going to fix that moving forward with Adelphia. So can we do that? Right? And if they're still like, yeah, oh yeah. What did I say?
I wish it was like that.
Yeah, no, like I'm agreeing, right? I'm not disagreeing like, oh no, that's dumb, right? Like you can't always agree. That's a huge lesson here. Always agree.
Always agree.
It's too much money. I agree it's too much money, but let me remind you what you're getting here, right? I got to talk to my wife. You're a smart man. Of course you should talk to your wife. But what happens if your wife says no? She won't say no. Great, let's do it. Right? There's the close, right? So within this statement, right? Oh, I don't want to give you everything, because then you're going to know what I'm paying, right? I would agree and be like, I totally agree. I wish it was like that, because I would take it and just save you money. But what it does do is it allows me to look and see if there's any gaps that you may have. For example, if you have commercial auto and you don't have non-own, that could cost you your business, right? So I just want to make sure that you have everything that you need. Don't worry about the cost. I promise I'll do my best, but I'll give you a free second opinion. And at the worst case scenario, you're doing two things. You're either happier with your current carrier, or you're going to be pissed off because you're paying too much money and we're going to get your business.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
one.
Thank you.
Anna, also, I wanted to bring this up to you. Jeff, in his office, has Dominique. She basically handles all of the customer service stuff from A to Z and the underwriting. And like I said, him and his team have seen everything. If you can think of anything that you have where you're dealing with customers, I'm sure Jeff can answer that too.
Hello, Anna. I've heard wonderful things about you.
Thank you so much. I did have a question. It was concerning the follow-ups that you were mentioning earlier,
Yes.
for quotes and everything.
Yes.
We do have a section for like our non-standard policies that have to go through the quoting process for renewals. And sometimes I do hit like a bump whenever I send, because unfortunately we do have to go through the entire application process and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we get started, and sometimes like the smaller accounts usually don't pay too much attention to it, and then like I have to constantly be following up, and then we're like 3 days away from the expiration date, and then I still haven't heard back from them. Would you recommend using the same follow-up process that you're using for like new quotes?
Not necessarily. One thing you need to be, and like I said, the business owner has 20 problems a day, sometimes 25. Anybody that gets them wrong, they're yelling at them, right? So as hard as it is to get them to switch, it's also hard to get them to renew, right? And certain people just do not communicate, and we deal with the same thing. God, we're losing so many accounts because we just can't get these audits done, right? For GL and work comp, right? I know you guys deal with the same thing. So what I've told my team is we need to strengthen our language when we're setting the tone for when this needs to get done and why. Hey, I'm calling you because we need to get this done or else we're going to lose your policy. It is so difficult to place this if we lose it. I really hope we don't get there. So can I get your commitment to get this information by the end of this week? Set the tone. Like hey John, we need to get this done, friendly reminder, right? Like that's okay, but you need to maybe strengthen your language. Not being aggressive, but letting them know what's going on in the industry right now. Just so you know, John, and again, I just tell you this because I would hate for us to be in this situation together. If you can't get us this information by Friday, you may lose coverage, and that means that if you don't shut down your business operations and one of your plumbers makes a mistake and a homeowner sues you because the house is now flooded, you're paying out of pocket. I hate to say that. I don't want to put that on you. Please just give me the information in the next week. Can you work with me? Right? So you're setting that tone in the sense of like, hey, we need this information. It's not optional, right? And then also talk about how like if this cancels, I don't know if we can get you another policy. So I think that's the other thing that I think you can create more of an urgency perspective within your service because of how difficult it is to place new business right now. So just remind them of that. And the faster they get the information, we're farther away from dealing with that problem. So can you work with me on that? Can I get your commitment? Perfect.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What it looks like in terms of your training for your team members, like throughout the week and whatnot, if that's something you guys do all the time, like what
Yeah.
that looks like, is it watching other training videos,
Yep.
is it call recordings, is it role play, what have you found to?
All the above. All the above. Yeah, we really focus on a ton of role play. I'm even role playing even on a higher level just because I'm hiring this new gal and we've hit a lot of good goals for this year. So I'm just kind of like, our biggest goal was like exotic travel and MDRT, and I've really done a heavy push on that. So like we kind of hit that. So now my energy is going back into the team. But to answer your question directly, weekly we have a discipline 9:05 on Tuesdays. We have our biggest training, which is either product knowledge or role play or watching like role play at the Olsen agency. We've got like 4 different things, right? It's all the same stuff recycled, right? But the best stuff needs to be retaught because the biggest human fault is how much we forget. So if it's not constantly refreshed and refreshed and refreshed and practiced and practiced and practiced, we only get worse, right? And it's unfortunate, but it's a thing that needs that constant repetition. So Tuesdays, 9:05, and then Thursdays we do it at 10:30. And like today, we role played our auto script. We role played driving the wedge, and what that is in an auto conversation is painting a picture like Picasso would, so that when you're telling it to a customer, they're actually able to follow it and understand that, oh my God, I didn't realize that full coverage meant that I could actually be on the hook for $100,000 because somebody went to the hospital for a week. I had no idea. What do you recommend, Jeff? Right? How do I get the right protection? So that's called driving the wedge. So we do that Thursdays. And then outside of that, we just do kind of role plays daily. I try to role play as much as we can, but we have a discipline effort twice a week.
Good question.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have hey, Mohammed just joined here. We've been doing, this is the open Q&A, Mohammed, so this is where you can give Jeff a scenario, or if there's a big deal you're working on, how he would close it, or any suggestions, tips, anything, just mindset strategy. If you want to jump in, he's only got a little bit more time, so if you want to give a question.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks. Sorry for hopping on there. I'm a little under the weather.
I'm sorry, buddy. That's okay. Heard you doing good things, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure. I actually was talking about with Chris earlier. Got a interesting scenario. We do have a client who doesn't have insurance at the moment, and he's reached out to us. We got the ball rolling on it. We got him some coverage, and quoted him. It seems that every time I talk to him, it's something else. He's trying to get the money together. Oh, I'm ready today. I call him. He doesn't answer at the time we set. It's at this point where I'm chasing up.
It's a cat and mouse.
I tried setting deadlines with him.
It's a cat and mouse.
It's a cat and mouse, yeah.
Those deadlines haven't been working. I've been trying to, not necessarily pull the deal, but, trying to let him know that this quote's expiring pretty soon.
Yeah.
Just really trying to create a sense of urgency.
For sure. Does the guy have insurance, yes or no?
He doesn't have insurance.
Okay, and what?
We've scared him.
Okay.
We tried sending a message. We let him know the risks involved and what he's on the hook for. We don't know.
For sure. Some people are just so comfortable with risk exposure, it blows my mind. What's the policy? Is it a GL
Truck.
commercial? Oh, it's a trucking.
Yeah.
And this guy's trucking. What was the scenario that you gave him, what he'd be responsible for? I think 2 things. Number one, the biggest reason why any of my customers don't make it to retirement on time is because they had a major incident that an insurance company should have covered, but they didn't have the right coverage. Right? So like what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to prevent anything from happening. What else can you adjust in another budget to where you can at least afford something where if something happens, you're not going to potentially owe for the rest of your life. Can you work with me on that? Should we maybe move down a package, get him something a little bit cheaper, and then we can always upgrade it later? Just start trying to find solutions for this guy. But I get it. It also sounds like a guy who may not pay his bill either. you know, and it's just kind of one of those things where it's kind of like at this point, and you missed this, and that's totally fine, but this is a statement I'm going to leave you with. To move up in this game, spend more time with better prospects, right? So it's like this guy, you've already told him, you know, maybe he would need like Anna or Noemi. Noemi, you speak Spanish? Okay, perfecto. Yo hablo español también. But you could get with him with a bilingual speaker and kind of give that scenario where, hey, the number one reason why you wouldn't make it to retirement, God forbid, man, you're in a $25,000 truck. If you hit somebody, 25,000 pound truck, if you hit somebody, man, they may not make it. You know, and I mean, do you have $1 million stash that you're just ready to go to let that go? Let's get this, man. It's $500 a month. You know, let's lower it. How about this? Let's bring you in with a lower package. That's $320. And then let's upgrade it when you get a little bit more business funds. Can we do that? Like, try to think of those solutions. And if that doesn't work, man, find another prospect. Spend more time with better prospects, I think, is a good answer to that. Because I get it. We deal with it all the time. It's frustrating. But eventually you get to the point where when you do this long enough, you know who you want to proceed with.